Turkey for the last 10 years has been pushing, and they're getting patients from all over the world to come to Turkey. And the basic reason for that is that they're very inexpensive. They're about half the price of what you can get it for in this country. And the problem is that in Turkey, they do approximately, from my understanding anyway, is that they do approximately 1,200 patients per day in all of Turkey.
Day. Wow.
Per day. Because they get people from Europe, they get people from Asia, they get people from the United States, based on the prices. Labor is extremely cheap there. But the problem is that a doctor doesn't do the procedure in Turkey.
Right.
The procedures are done by technicians. So you have one doctor who basically oversees maybe 20 or 30 patients being done that day in the same location. Unfortunately, that's not always the best way to go. I do see people that come in my office that have terrible results from those procedures. Once in a while, I see someone who has a decent result. So it really depends on where you go in Turkey, who's doing your procedure. I had a patient last week tell me that they went to Turkey, he came into my office because he had a problem and he wanted me to see. And he said he did the procedure in a room with 12 other people.
Wow.
And all that was separating them on stretchers was curtains, like an emergency room.
Right.
With somebody behind them doing the FUE procedure. Again, not the best way to go and do a procedure for many reasons, including sterility and
sure.
And not only that, but what if there's a problem? Now you're in a room with so many other people and no doctor. Mm-hmm. The doctor is basically walking around seeing other people. So it becomes a real problem.
Yeah. Certainly not the way to do it.
Turkey. It's not the way to do it. But people will go there and they take the chance because they're paying half the price. So all I can do is, when somebody comes into my office, give them the information that they need and tell them it's not the greatest idea, but, it's your decision, obviously.
Yeah, we've seen that sort of thing for years. People have gone to South America for plastic surgery procedures, and this has been shown a million times over. There was even a great TV show called Botched where two highly trained plastic surgeons in California would repair a lot of the things done in South America because they were done either incorrectly, inappropriately, obviously for less of a fee, but these people were not getting great care. And whether or not a technician was doing a procedure, there was even one program where someone wanted, butt implants, glute implants, and they used a breast implant to put into that space. So when you go somewhere to get a price that may be a little bit better, it may be unfortunate that you're just getting, lesser care or potentially a poor outcome. So it doesn't make sense to go somewhere where you don't understand the quality of the procedure and all the safety measures that need to be in place.
Oh, I agree wholeheartedly. I'm familiar with the show. I mean, I've spent quite a number of years repairing work done by other people.
Right.
Even though I will not touch anybody that comes from Turkey, because if they have a problem coming from Turkey, they need to go back to Turkey.
Right.
Because if I try to repair it, then it becomes my problem.
Right. Right.
And that I don't want.
Yeah.
But, there was years ago here in Long Island, along the line of what you're saying, in Long Island, there was a doctor, and I won't mention any names, but it was on the front page of the Daily News, where he was a hair transplant surgeon running a practice, and he had two sanitation workers that were doing part-time in his office doing hair transplants.
My God. Sanitation, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard. Yeah.
Well, you can look it up. Daily News had it front page because when a doctor was not in the office, they would bring in patients and do their own work.
Wow.
It was terrible.
What in that doctor's mind would make it okay to do that, something like that?
Yeah,
That makes no
yeah.
sense.
So people doing all kinds of crazy things out there. And again, to the patients, to people interested in doing a hair restoration surgery that listening to your program, you have to do your research.
Hmm.
You have to go to somebody who's been doing it for a while, who is hands-on and not selling you a procedure and then bringing in a team from someplace else, which seems to be happening quite a bit today in New York, Long Island, all over the states. So research really, know that you're going to somebody who does only hair restoration surgery and not
Hmm.
going to some place where they're doing 50 million other things and
Yeah.
hair happens to be one of those things that they're doing.
Or you're doing one patient a day, or that the doctor himself is doing, all the work.
Right.
So the time wise, it takes